Welcome back, gang. It's Deltia from DeltiusGaming.com. In today's video, we're going to go over the battery updated for the Thieves Guild Templar healer base for group PvE, dungeons, even trials, and soloing around. So if you like healing, want some more information about it, you saw the top 5 healing video, this is the video for you. So let's explain Templar healing in ESO Thieves Guild. Okay, so we're going to go over the skills very first thing, and I'm going to go in very big detail so you understand exactly what we're talking about when we heal and how to get the most out of it. A lot of healers just think, hey, I have this ability and that's what I use, Breath of Life, over and over and over, and life's good. And there's a lot more to it. And sometimes it's more simple than people think. You don't have to have a bunch of hots, and as a healer, your job is to do damage as well, not just simply always heal, which a lot of people have trouble with. Okay, so I have 2 bars, and what I use is dual wield as my primary heal bar. Why? Dual wield gives a lot more spell damage. So you look here, 2500 spell damage unbuffed. We go back to our Maelstrom staff bar, 2100. Why? Well, there's something in the math that tells you that it gets more, and then also you get another set bonus. So the Torg's Pack 2-piece. More spell damage, more magic means bigger heals, bigger damage. So that's where I'm going to be hanging out most of the time. While my resto bar is primarily buffs. Before the fight, during the fight, after about 8 to 10 seconds, be recasting some spells, and then going back to my big old nasty dual bar. Okay, so dual bar, it's pretty much the same as last time. Now we have Inner Light, which is crit. You can do an empowered meteor before the fight if you're just going to pull trash, but realistically you're just going to leave this slotted on to get more magic and your spell critical. Now your major spell prophecy, which is your spell damage, usually a Dragon Knight will be running in your group that has igneous weapons. So igneous weapons gives the entire party major sorcery 20% spell damage. So that's why I don't have it on any of my bars, is usually I run with a Dragon Knight. And if you don't have a Dragon Knight, you can always take down a potion here, which will give you 45 seconds. And so buffed with that, I'm at 3000 spell damage. And once we get to the gear, I'll show you what that looks like. But with Spell Power Cure Up, I'm at 3300 spell damage. That's a lot for a healer. Now I have a little bit lower magic, which we'll explain why once we cover the gear section. But this guy can hit like a truck, even as a healer. Okay, so Inner Light, that's pretty self-explanatory. A lot of people don't use Purifying Light, and I have no idea why. It's a juggernaut heal ability and damage. If you look, 22,000 damage, it costs basically no magic. It blows up in 6 seconds after taking damage. Now, why do I use this? Because there's a pool of health on the mob that people are trying to hit. So let me go find a mob and show you how important this is. So like right here, right, I put this little light on. I'm just going to hit him here. Throw a spear on him and laser beam him. You see this heal right here? 3.8k is what it's getting non-crit. 3.6. Now if Major Mending's up, my spell power is up, that's looking at 4,000 or 5,000 heals per second on that specific mob. You can cast on more than one mob, so you can cast on a bunch of them, and basically it's going to keep your melee up. I consider this like a heal over time. It lasts 2 seconds or 6 seconds, so it's going to be up as long as you're refreshing it every 6 seconds on individual mobs. This will keep your tank up, will keep your melee up pretty much just by casting one spell, and it does a lot of damage. There's also another reason why you want to use it. 1, activating Dawn's Wrath grants you 3 ultimate every 6 seconds. Well, guess what? The duration of this ability is 6 seconds. So you're getting 3 ultimate casting it again, refreshing it. Also, every 20 seconds, you're going to need to cast it for sure for the spell damage by 5%. So that's going to add even more spell damage to the 3,300 amount. So those 2 passives are really important, and the reason why we're going to maintain this buff a lot of the time. Okay, and then I have Radiant Oppression Jesus Beam. A lot of people call it that. Now, why do I have Radiant Oppression? Well, even as a healer, you're going to need to do damage. And this Execute is probably the best in the game. So I highly recommend having this on there for boss burn phase. Now, the way to use this properly is when you've applied all of your heal over times, no one's in trouble, and you have a second to fire this off. What I see beginner healers doing is using this too frequently and not knowing how to break it. Okay, so what happens is you're going to be fighting a mob eventually, and someone's going to take a lot of damage. Block, then heal. So you need to know Jesus beam, block, heal. So you can cancel it with the block. So you watch this. So you can, like, if you hit it, boom, I cancel it right away. Because it goes about 3 seconds. And in those 3 seconds, as soon as I cast it, I look in the top left of my group frames. And I'm seriously just looking if someone's health drops. And if they do, click the block, heal, breath of life, life's good. 22k breath of life, I'm buff. Not bad, huh? So I'm going to show you how to get that to happen. The breath of life just being so huge. But just know, Jesus Beam is still very effective, but you got to be able to cancel it when you get in here. If you're not comfortable using it, you can always swap something out for it. Especially structured entropy if you don't have a Dragon Knight running with you and you need your major sorcery and you don't want to use potions. But I highly recommend it on here. Next up is Blazing Spear. It's good single target. It's good AoE. It has a monster synergy with it. It does damage over time. And it's our Adric Spear ability that increases our critical strike by 10%. It's amazing. It's really good. So I take this over the other one, which is Luminous Spear. Reason being is Luminous gives a little bit of magic, but I have plenty of utility giving magic off. I want the extra damage. So let me show you just how powerful this thing can hit when we're fully buffed. Okay, that 8 point something on a crit, and then also Burning Light can hit for 7k. That's a 15,000 AoE spammable ability if both things are proccing. That is a lot of damage. That's equivalent to a massive steel tornado. So it's really good. Combine that with Proxy Debt, and you're doing just as much damage as a DPS in your group. It's spammable, it's single target, it's AoE, it's a synergy, it's a must-have. Now, some people get really aggressive and put Puncturing Sweeps on there, but I still want to do some more buffs, so I don't go with Puncturing Sweeps. I highly recommend Blazing Spear. If nothing's going on, everyone's healed, all your buffs are out, you need to throw this constantly doing damage. Okay, what would a healer be? Templar without Breath of Life. Now, Breath of Life has gone through some changes. It only heals 2 allies now. But look how much it heals for. I mean, this thing is a lot of healing. The trick is, don't spam this. You want to heal it when someone's low health. See, you got this little, where is it? Mending. Restoring light abilities up to 10% of the proportion of the severity of target's wounds. What that means is, the lower health the ally is, the harder this is going to heal. So if someone's at 90% life, don't spam Breath of Life, because it's taxing on your magic. Look at the cost, 2,500. What you want to do is have your Purifying Light down, your Purifying Ritual, Rapid Regens. So if someone dips down a little bit to maybe 70%, you don't have to spam Breath of Life. It's when they drop to 50%, boom, you need a burst heal. That's when you use it. Now, if you're non-Templar and you're just watching this for information, you can still have an effective heal with Healing Ward right here. It's not going to do 2 people, but it will prevent someone from dying. Also, it's about the same magic cost as Breath of Life. So there is ways to heal without Breath of Life without being a Templar, and that's one of them. Okay, so the next ultimate I have is Shooting Star. Now, why do I have Shooting Star and a healer? Well, just slotting it gives me magic. Magic regen, max magic, so I like it having the Mage's Guild on my primary bar. More damage, more magic, happy, joy, joy. And you can get an Empower with it. Since Inner Light is no longer toggleable, you can click it, and you see that bottom left of my screen? That's an Empower. My swords glow up yellow. That means 20% more damage on a meteor, making it hit extremely hard. Gives ultimate back. It's basically just a way to clear out trash mobs when you're just clearing a dungeon and you don't need a big heal ultimate. If you are struggling with resources and you don't like that, you can always go with Remembrance. It's very low cost. Damage reduction, 120. I have a build center around it for PvP, and it's still useful for PvE, just because the radius is 20 meters. So it'll give you 4 seconds where you can't get CC'd, you can get back resources, life's good, and this thing will heal like a truck. So to give you an idea, let's do a Breath of Life here when we're buffed. So let's get Spell Power Cure up. I don't have my 5%, but 31,000 Breath of Life. 31k. So that's a crit. 18k non-crit. 31k. You're basically doing a heal to full on one person in your party with Breath of Life. The trick is just don't spam it like that. You really need to make sure you're using it properly. But Breath of Life, it's still ridiculously good. Okay, back bar. There's a lot of different things you can run here, and I want to explain one thing before we finish the front bar. This setup right now is for like dungeons, Veteran Imperial City Prison, White Gold Tower, doing the Undaunted dailies. If you're running a trial, most likely as a healer, you're going to need to run a couple different buffs for your party. One, weakness to elements, morph to elemental drain. So you're going to need to bring a destruction staff, and I recommend taking off Radiant Oppression for this. And it's going to basically reduce the spell resistance, which isn't that big of a deal, but it's going to give back magic when people are weaving in attacks with flame, frost, or shock. So that alone will help everyone sustain a lot better magic builds. You're going to lose some damage because you don't have an execute, but the 12-man trial, if you're doing this, it will help out your party tremendously. So make sure you bring a destruction staff, and your flex bot is Radiant Oppression. Back bar, I play an aggressive style healer, so I use Proxy Debt. Proxy Debt is just, what can you say? It's just a juggernaut AoE and single target ability that gets more powerful the more mobs around it. So keep in mind, I'm a healer. Let's go show you how hard this thing can hit. So it's buff, spell power up. I need to refresh my food here. Let's do a Breath of Life. So I'm going to cast it. The trick with this is to make sure that you're on your other bar once it's about to go off. So we're going to go right here. That's 22k single target on a crit. So more mobs around, it can hit almost twice that hard. So I like it a lot. Basically, that's why it's on the back bar. You're going to buff pre-fight, and you're going to want it to go off right as you enter the mob phase. So I have it on my number 1 bar, because I pretty much click 1, 2, 4, and so on. Okay, so Proxy Debt. If you don't like it, you can run some other things here. Siphon Spirit is another really good one. That's you're going to probably need to run in a trial or dungeons, which is basically also restoring magic back when you hit a target. It looks like it's 1% of the magic, so that adds up. Put Elemental Drain and Siphon Spirit on a target. Guess what? You are not going to run out of magic, or if you do, you're not managing it very well. Now, where you get that is the blast ability here and restoration staff. I need to level it up, but consider it's a flat spot right there if you don't want to be aggressive or you're doing a trial. Okay, Purifying Ritual is a must. It just is so powerful now. Basically, it's a big old radius. Now, you probably want Extended Ritual for pure PvE because it lasts longer and you're not going to have to recast it, but it's a cheap ability. It's going to rid yourself of negative effects, and then someone else can use the synergy, which is very important in the landscape of the game today. Also, it does heals over time, and it's going to be really important for our gear setup as well. But the trick, why this is so important, is major mending. So while you're in the effect, so for 12 seconds with one morph, 16 seconds for other, you get major mending, increasing your healing done by 25%. And then 4 seconds after you leave. So, like, to illustrate this point, if we do a Breath of Life, 22k, 22.9, so 22.9 crit, and then we put this down, 28.7 crit. That's 6,000 more heals with just this ability down. Yeah. Now, I do have Spell Power Cure up, so that is a lot more heal, 25%. Do the math. I can't. I'm slow. So you gotta leave this down. Now the trick is you want to cast it as you kind of go into this stuff. Remember that your allies will get healed if they're in it with a heal over time effect, but they don't have to be in it for you to get major mending. So you have this big, huge area where, you know, the Templar, my house kind of funny thing, and you can exit it as well. So if we exit it, you'll still get that buff for 4 seconds. So kind of when I'm going into combat, I'll go proxy, I'll go boom, and I'll run in there, and I might have to recast it again, which is okay. Major menu, you're going to need to keep that up at all times. Repentance, it's a Templar, you got to use Repentance. You really have to. Just slotting it gives you recovery, and then corpses give you back a massive amount of health and stamina. The trick with Repentance here is don't use it after the fight's done and there's 1,000 bodies laying around. You need to use it early and often. It's a free heal. Now it says 4,300 on health. So let's see what it does heal-wise once we get fully buffed. So we're gonna Put Purifying Ritual down. Use a Spell Power Potion. I'm taking donations on Spell Power Potions after this video. This Heavy Rest Dome down, and bang. So that's a 5.7k non-crit. 5.7k non-crit. So you're looking at 7,000 to 8,000 healing on one corpse on a crit. So use it early and often. It's a free heal. I'd rather have you use this on a corpse than spamming Breath of Life, because you're going to blow through magic a lot faster. You got to use this. Another skill that you have to use, whether you have a Maelstrom Staff or not, is Rapid Regen. It lasts 16.5 seconds. It's super cheap, but the healing per second is staggering. It's very, very good. So I have on my 4 key. Why? Because as I'm going into combat, I'm going to spam this. So remember that it's 2 allies. So it's you and someone else, and then you're going to need to cast it twice if you're in a 4-man party, or a bunch of times in a 12-man party. So if we get this down, use a Spell Power Potion, 3.5k Rapid Regen ticks, along with 3k Healing Ritual ticks, 3.5k on a crit. So how much healing a second is that? About 5,000 with 2 abilities? That's not bad. Now you add Purifying Light in there and just stand on the heal, and you're getting, you know, almost 10,000 heals a second. So let's show you what this looks like. Let's illustrate this point of just how powerful it is healing. So I'm going to get these guys, put my Purifying Ritual down. I'm going to just drop this guy down and stand in the heal. 3.8k, 3.5k, and Purifying Light is 5.1k. So do the math. That's like 10,000 heals a second just with those abilities. And I'm not spamming Breath of Life. So that's why you got to settle down the Breath of Life and allow your HOTS to do the job, and allow you to do damage, and allow you to sustain a lot more magic. Last ability up is Combat Prayer. Major Berserk gives you minor resistance, and it's a decent self-heal. Now, a lot of people want Breath of Life here, and that's fine, but this thing can heal pretty good as well, so let's do an illustration here. Buff. Spell Power Cures up, and that's 13.9k on a crit. That's not bad heal. See? So it's no Breath of Life, but if you need to still heal someone, you can do it. Remember, that's in front of you in like a rectangle type shape. See, it's not going to be all around, so you need to aim it. Yes, I know. The one hard thing we have to do is a Templar healer. The only time I take this away is if I have 2 Nightblade DPS. Most likely the Nightblade should be running Grim Focus, which will give you the 8% major Berserk anyways, so you can take that off and run something else. What would you run instead? Well, you have a lot of options. You can run Breath of Life, other things, but don't get carried away with Healing Springs. Like Healing Springs, people just love to use this, and I just don't know why. So let's do a fully buffed Healing Springs. So Healing Springs did 5.5k on a crit. That's not very much healing. Purifying Light, which also does damage, does the same amount of healing. So I'd rather have you use damage and have a big, huge AoE circle of healing with Purifying Light, proccing Dawn's Wrath, doing damage, and then doing the derpy Healing Springs. Sometimes it's necessary in a trial. Sometimes it's necessary in PvP. But don't get too carried away with it, because it's not that good. Another thing you could use is Harness Magic if you're doing like ICP or White Gold Tower. That's really effective. You can do Channel Focus if you need more magic and you're struggling with regeneration. You can go, even crazier on damage and do a Dark Flare for range, or Vampire's Bane, something like that. But, if you want to double bar Breath of Life because you feel more comfortable with it, go ahead. It'll take some time to understand when you have to swap and why. So I totally get that. And then also we have Solar Prison. It's damage mitigation on a magnitude unknown. It does so much damage. And also Grav Crush. Grav Crush can hit up to 30,000 on a specific build. And I've seen someone with a Warhorn up hit for 40,000. AoE and a stun. So you gotta use Nova. The damage reduction is just unparalleled. So this is what I'm going to use on boss fights specifically. It does have a high ultimate cost, but it lasts over 10 seconds. 28 meter range. It's worth it to slot. So that's her skills. Let's go ahead and talk about the gear and why I'm talking about the battery. Why even name it the battery? And you're going to give back resources. And so just to recap, you're going to give back resources, stamina with Blazing Spear. Your rapid regeneration is going to tick and give back magic. You can also slot Destruction Staff and give back magic on hits, Restoration Staff, Spirit, and that's going to give back magic as well. And then also your another stamina give back Repentance, and that's just with their skills. Let's talk about gear. So when we talk about gear for this build, a couple things have changed. Mainly that Worm Cult now drops from Maw of Lorcage, the new trial. And so you can use it with jewelry pieces as well. Reduce magic cost for up to 12 members of the group by 5%. It's basically a jewelry piece seducers for the group. It's a must-have, and that's what gives me the blue little orbs running around. So it's not cheap. A friend, Puzzle, donated me some jewelry pieces, so shout out to him. Thank you so much. I couldn't have got this build out without him. Radio Spam also donated me 2 pieces as well, so thank you for that. So what I like to run is Divines on here if you can, and then I just do hat and shoulders just because that's what I had. So 5 pieces of that. And then also 5 pieces of Spell Power Cure. I don't have optimal set yet for it, so it should be VR16, all Divines, and I hate that it's a robe, not a jerkin. Oh well. So healing an ally at 100% has a 50% chance to grant them 2/5/2 weapon and spell damage for 10 seconds. Basically, with your heal over time effects, this is pretty much up all the time. Especially if you're using Repentance, topping people off, and it gives you a ton of max magic. Though it doesn't have any regen with it. So there's 2 things we're running with 0 regen. So you're going to need to get regen another different way. And usually what you're going to do is get regen on your jewelry pieces. Now I have all spell damage because I'm decent at managing my resources and doing heavy resto. But I highly recommend 1 to 2 to even 3 regen. Remember, you're not mainly supposed to do damage. You're mainly supposed to do damage and heal. So if you're struggling with resources, you've slotted Channel Focus to get some other resources, use Recovery Jewelry here. But you shouldn't have too much of a problem because this reduced magic cost is a big boon to our build. So Spell Power Cure, where can you get that white gold tower? If you don't have Spell Power Cure, Kagranax is still a good choice because of the res speed, but there's really no offensive replacement for Spell Power Cure, making it, in my opinion, best in slot for healer gear right now. Now, there's some other gear from Maw of Lorcage that's really good as well with synergies, but you're going to need to use this until you can start doing that dungeon. And then Worm Cult, you can get it from the normal mode Maw of Lorcage, and also players can sell it, trade it, so you can also get that. Then also, we have the Maelstrom Restoration Staff. I would like a precise one for crits, but, you know, you get what you get here. And then it restores magic when you critically heal a target. So I run high crit, and I run the Thieves Stone, because I like high crit on my build. So on this bar, if I use a Spell Power Potion, I've used 10 already, I'm going broke. You can see my crit is at 60%. If I go here, it's at 56% with a lot of spell damage. So I am likely to crit a lot. And that is good because my party is going to get back resources. So Maelstrom Staff, you don't have to have it, and it's still useful to run the other set with it. Now, if you don't have this, you can always go 2-piece Engine Guardian up here for better resources, 3-piece Willpower, but I highly recommend working to get Spell Power Cure and Worm Cult. The added advantage it gives to your teammates is just unparalleled. And then we have Torg's Pack. Now, I have Nirnhone, and I have some crazy enchants on the weapons, which I don't really know why I did that. But if you're going to purely heal, I would probably go Precise. If you want to heal and do damage, Nirnhone's probably your best option. So I like higher crit on my healer builds versus not. I want to crit a lot, and especially since I'm getting rewarded crit healing, giving back magic to my allies. So that's the traits. Divines, if you can. I go with the Thief Mundus Stone. I highly recommend the Thief Mundus Stone. If you're having trouble with resources, you can always go the Atronach, but you're going to lose out on tons of crit. And here's the buff for the 5% magic that you see here. So that's the gear. It's pretty simple. It's hard to get, but anything that's hard to get is worth having. Spell, I run for food, I run this, max health, max magic. I carry spell power potions on me in case I don't have a Dragonite, and generally I just suck down these things all the time. So just the normal cheesy little ones here. If you have tripods and you're getting, stamina because you're dodge rolling and stuff like that, you're probably not playing it right. Another thing you want to do is block cast a lot. Why? Because Repentance restores tons and tons of stamina. So if you're in trouble, you're going to need a block cast. Now, one of the downsides with this gear setup is it's all light. You don't have an option to go anything else. So you're going to lose out on your Undaunted metal. You're going to lose 4% max stats. So instead of using 511, I go with 10 health. I like to be around 18k or higher. You can play 16k, but it's pretty risky and you're going to have to block a lot. So for me, it's just a little more comfortable. This is a dark elf, so I get 9% max magic and nothing to health. So try to have your health around 18k. Remember that the more health you have, the less magic you have. So don't go wild on health. If you have 30k health as a healer, you're probably healing for like nothing. So you need to find a balance between max magic and health. The more health you have, once again, the less healing you're going to do, just because you have to sacrifice something to get something else. Now, my magic recovery is crap. Why? Well, I have all my spell damage enchants, but I have a lot of points into reduce cost, and I have channel focus when I'm in trouble, and I use potions off cooldown. Plus the other abilities, Rapid Regeneration is going to give me back Siphon Spirit if I slot that, and I'm doing heavy restos. Always be doing something. Always be doing something. If you're out of magic, do a heavy resto and let your teammates know. Okay, so let's talk about champion points. Okay, let's talk about champion points here, and I spec heavily into reduce costs, not regen for this build, because I'm not running a whole lot of regen, and I'm getting back magic anyways. So this reduced cost of magic spells stacks with all of our light armor, and it stacks with the 5-piece Worm Cult that we're running to really reduce spell cost. So between heavy restos, rapid regen, Siphon Spirit, elemental drain, I'm getting a lot of resources back. The rest of the remaining points, I go Arcanist. So you probably want 100 here and then 67 here, but I just do that split. Now, oddly enough, I do a 4-way split between Blessed, Elfborn, Elemental Expert, and Thaumaturge. Why? Everyone needs to be able to do damage, and I'm already getting 31,000 crit Breath of Lives. That's pretty much overkill, and you can almost spec out of Blessed if you're healing that much, because most likely no one's going to need a 31,000 crit Breath of Life, and everyone needs to do damage. So this spec helps me do damage on everything, plus it allows me to get the Arcane Well at 120 points. So we got healing, crits, whether it's healing or damage. You got magic damage, flame, which is like shooting star or something like that, vampire's bane, but this is proxy death, this is blazing spear, and then also thaumaturge. What I have points in there? Well, proxy death is actually considered a damage over time effect. Blazing spear does damage up front and then does damage over time. Also, if you want to do sweeps, that's double dipping in damage effectiveness as well. So my idea of a healer is one that does damage. I don't just go crazy 100 points here, then 67 here. I don't find that effective. I find damage to be more effective. And, I'm getting almost 15,000 AoE Blazing Spear hits. That's pretty good. With Warhorn up, you're looking at 20,000. That's a lot of damage. Okay, so for damage mitigation, the red trait, I just like this split. I don't know if it's the best, or it's probably not at all, but 40, 40, 40. So thick skin damage over time, which is a lot. Flame Frost, shock magic, poison, disease, and physical. I like this spec. Then I go quick recovery since it's easier to heal myself. Makes me a little more survivable. Is that the best? Like I said, I don't know. If you're doing a lot of reses, you're probably going to want to go a little bit higher in here. I don't run any damage shields, don't need that, don't need that, don't need that. So really it's just quick recovery if you wanted to get the passives in here. But I like the critical passives. Unchained doesn't really matter because we're not using any stam abilities, but I just like putting 120 points into here. So, I mean, that's the champion points. It's not that crazy. I like the 4-way split. I've done all the content in the game. No death, healed, ICP, White Gold Tower, and I didn't cheese it. I haven't done the Maul of Lorcage yet just because I'm not really into trials so much, but I will probably start healing that. So the battery's updated. I hope you guys like this build. If you do like this type of content, let me know in the comments. Subscribe, share, thumbs up. All that stuff helps. I'm trying to work my butt off here with Baby D. Even it's a little bit harder to get all these content and things done, but it's definitely fun still. So what I'm working on next, I'll be working on the T3 Dragonite tank, Laceration Dragonite. I'm close to getting no death and vet mails from Arena, so just a couple more practice runs. And I should have something updated for you folks that are liking the DK, both damage and tanking. So I hope you like this. Thanks for watching, and let me know. What are your thoughts on the battery healer for Elder Scrolls Online?